Well, welcome back, everybody. It's time for Monster Monday. And just when you thought we were done with the aberrations, I present to you the Slaadi. S-L-A-A-D. Slaad. Plural, Slaadi. S-L-A-A-D-I. When I was a little kid, my friends called these Slades because we were dumb. The Slaadi have been around in the game for a little bit. And if I dig back in the older books, I'll get stat blocks and I'll get a little bit of info. But in 5th edition Monster Manual, there's a lot more of what I'll call like the lore that is kind of nicely and concisely presented here. Now, you might be expecting me to jump right into reading through that lore, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'll tell you that if you want to learn more about the Slaadi, go out and buy this book, or, subscribe to a service that offers digital versions of these things. I'm not pimping them out because they're not a sponsor. So, but I will say this. I will summarize kind of the lore related to these, and then I will quickly jump into how I think they could be better used without that lore. So to start, they provide this whole backstory about how the Slaadi come from Limbo, which is a chaos plane, right? Just a chaos everywhere. And that they were actually created on accident by Primus, the overlord of the Modrons, who created a gigantic, geometrically complex stone imbued with the power of law. Now, if you are a nerd like me, and you think of geometrically complex stone imbued with the power of law, don't you kind of immediately think of a big D20? And if you were a writer nerd who created Modrons and Slaadi, maybe this is something that you thought up and you were like, I am so clever. What if the god of the Modrons actually made a giant D20 that was imbued with the power of law and then hurled it into Limbo to try to set everything into order? Well, that is kind of funny, actually. Nerd humor. But let's say that that's the case. So imagine Primus creates this mega magic, D20 and throws it into Limbo, this plane of chaos. And what happens, unfortunately, is this backfires. And instead of setting everything into motion towards order, the chaos kind of consumes the power of this thing and absorbs it, and then starts spawning these creatures from it. The Slaadi. I've been playing D&D for decades. I don't really use the planes. I don't use, like all the different planes of existence. I don't run adventures in other planes. I don't do like planescape, jumping from one plane to another. Maybe you do, and that's cool. I'm not knocking people who do. I'm sure that there's a lot of fun to be had. But I like to kind of think about like taking these ideas and not like sort of like divorcing yourself from the need to make it exactly fit in with how it was originally conceived, and rather think of the ways to use the Slaadi in your own world. Okay, so I mean, these creatures don't look like they have to be from another plane of existence, right? Aren't they just kind of like toad humanoid creatures? Yeah. So couldn't you just create a way for this to be in your own original world? You certainly could, friends. If you wanted to. If you wanted to marry the original ideas, the origins of the Slaadi with whatever's happening in whatever setting you're in, you could easily do that through the creation of a chaos portal. And for those who don't know, a chaos portal is a plot device used by a DM or GM to make something that wouldn't normally happen in the paradigm of your world somehow allowable or somehow happen. I.e., a powerful wizard, dabbles in magics that is far beyond their ken and accidentally opens up a portal to a hellish plane of limbo and chaos and outpour these armies of these multicolored toad creatures. Okay, so whatever the plot device is, however you decide to bring these suckers through into your world, you can do it. I give you I give you my approval. Change the rules. Break the game. The other thing too is if you're playing with like veteran people and experienced gamers who like know the lore, F them. Just mess with them. Change it all up. If they think that, you know, the Slaadi came from a Modron imbued D20 and they came from Limbo, change the lore just so they don't know. And don't even call them Slaadi. Give them your own name if you want. But let's move on. So you got these Slaadi, right? They're aberrations because they come from somewhere else. Some things about them that I think will play into how we can creatively use them. They're shape changers, and they got a lot of magical ability. Okay, so there's these different colored Slaadi, and then the uber powered one is the Death Slaad. So you have red, blue, green, gray, and death. Why did it go from like colors to just Death Slaad? The other component is that if you use the lore, then when a Slaad is spawned, there's a small sliver of the original spawning stone that like goes into their brain. And there's this component where if you have the knowledge, you can control a Slaad. If you have the gem, you can control it. So maybe that's another kind of thing that we're gonna put into our list of possible adventure ingredients. You may not want to deal with that. You may want to be like, no, I've decided to separate from that lore, and my Slaads don't have any control chips. They're just agents of chaos. It's up to you. All right, let's go over the basics on each of the Slaadi before we get into stat blocks. When a red Slaad claws a humanoid creature, it can inject an egg from a gland under one of its claws. The egg works its way into the host and gestates, eventually forming a Slaad tadpole. Such a tadpole then eats its way out of the host body, feeds on the host remains, and then seeks any other fresh meat it can find. The tadpole transforms into a fully grown blue Slaad or green Slaad if the host had the ability to cast third level spells or higher within 2d12 hours. A blue Slaad. The bone hooks that protrude from the back of a blue Slaad's hands inflict a terrible transformative disease on humanoids wounded by them. This infection, called chaos phage, Phage, I don't know how to pronounce that, transforms its victims into a fully grown red Slaad or green Slaad if the host was a spellcaster able to cast third level spells or higher. Oh, God. I'm having like nightmares. I just want to say this one more time. My patron, Echo Thunderbolt, proposed this idea to cover this. Now, it fits in because I've been doing aberrations, but I just want to say that if you've watched any of my shows, you'll notice that I've never used the Slaadi because they're brutal, dude. Like, I have nightmares as a player of being attacked by these things way back in the day. Like, second edition, like, the terror of facing a Slaad was real. Or as my friend Justin used to call them, a Slade. Green Slaad. Green Slaadi are surprisingly intelligent and possess innate spellcasting ability. A green Slaad can change its shape to appear as a humanoid. If it was born of a humanoid host, the Slaad usually adopts its host's form. At some unpredictable point in its existence, a green Slaad unlocks the means to magically, instantly, and permanently transform itself into a gray Slaad. Unlocking this knowledge can take years, even decades. Gray Slaad. Outside of Limbo, gray Slaadi act as living extensions of the will of their masters, the Death Slaadi. A gray Slaad journeys to the prime material. In 5th edition, it's called the material plane. But because my brain is old, I think of AD&D and I think of the prime material plane. A gray Slaad journeys to the material plane on errands of doom. Errands of doom. Hey, Krafa, what if we formed a new death metal band called Errands of Doom? Paul could play bass. Paul's like, I don't know how to play bass. A gray Slaad learns how to master the use of a greatsword and imbue it with its own innate magic. A gray Slaad that eats the entire corpse of a dead Death Slaad instantly transforms into a Death Slaad. You see what I'm saying here? About the brutality? Like, I might have to do a follow-up episode where I track down the origins of who created the Slaadi. But you could probably look this up, right? Like go to Google, look it up on like D&D Wikipedia, and I'm sure it'll write up, who created the Slaadi. But like all this stuff was definitely meant for like high-level kind of life or death level encounters, right? These dudes are just vicious, bro. All right, last we get to the Death Slaad. All right, Death Slaadi are suffused with energy from the negative energy plane and exemplify evil's corruption of chaos. They take sadistic pleasure in bringing harm to others. So they are chaotic evil for you who care about alignment. They propagate their race by dragooning mobs of red and blue Slaadi and invading other planes. Humanoids who survive the incursion become incubators for new Slaadi. Okay. When we think of the Slaadi and how we use them, remember that you are the dungeon master. You can decide. Do you want to stick with the lore that they've established? If so, cool, great for you. Or do you want to change things up? You could decide the origins of the Slaadi. I like to think of them based on how this has been described. It's kind of reminiscent of a lot of different other genre sort of invaders, otherworldly invaders from other genres. So in a manner of speaking, the aliens from, Alien. That's a race of, xenomorphs who lay eggs, and then those eggs attack people in a parasitic form, and the human host body incubates and basically produces more. That would be kind of, a similar analogy, similar setup, but, in a sci-fi or science fantasy sort of setting. But you could easily have the Slaadi being like, hey, what was that race of aliens from like that in Marvel Endgame? That Thanos, what was the... Paul, you know what I'm talking about? God damn it, Paul. All right, so you know what I'm talking about. That race of aliens that like served Thanos, right? And they were like the bug people with the wings, and they flew down.
I think you're on something.
I'll kill both of you. That could be another example, Epic portal opens up. This strange species of alien Slaadi creatures pour into the region where your adventures are set. Your adventurers, the party, they are heroes, so of course they're going to be called to the defense of the region, the kingdom or kingdoms, whatever. Because these things are vicious, brutal. They're constantly reproducing more of their own by attacking and laying eggs into their victims, etc. Right? This could be more than just an adventure. It could be a campaign, because in Monster Monday I try to think of all those things. Could it be just a simple one-off encounter? It could be. Maybe you have a very, very low-powered Slaad discovered by your group at lower level. They defeat it, or they don't. Maybe it gets away, and that's like plants the seed for the coming adventure where the invasion's going to happen. And phase one of the invasion is maybe your party is wise to this and they prepared and they're able to fend off the invaders. Or maybe they were not paying attention to the numerous clues that you drop leading up to the invasion. They're unprepared, the invasion takes hold, and now they're almost living in a post-apocalyptic environment of your fantasy game where the Slaadi outnumber the survivors. And they are the survivors who must fight back. Oh, you know what? I just thought of another alien type of show is V. Yeah. So basically any kind of scenario where you have, otherworldly creatures or alien invaders, and they're coming to your home planet and your heroes have to defend against them. I know that there's, it's kind of become popular to consider whether or not a quote-unquote monster is really a monster, or if it's just kind of doing what it would instinctively do. In this case, these are aberrations, and they are monsters by all definitions of any civilized species. Their goal is to come and conquer and take over everything and destroy what was there before and build more of their own and move on to the next place. Like a swarm of locusts. Loci? Death Slaad. All right, so in the book, there's this green box. There's a variant thing. So even good old Wizards of the Coast acknowledges that this is an optional thing. But let's take a look. As a Slaad emerges from the spawning stone, the stone magically implants a fragment of itself in the Slaad's brain. This fragment takes the form of a magic gem roughly the size and shape of a human child's fist. The gem is the same color of the Slaad. A Slaad born from something other than the spawning stone has no gem in its brain. Control gem. Implanted in the Slaad's brain is a magic control gem. The Slaad must obey whoever possesses the gem and is immune to being charmed while so controlled. Certain spells can be used to acquire the gem. If the Slaad fails its saving throw against imprisonment, the spell can transfer the gem to the spellcaster's open hand. A wish spell. Jesus. A greater respiration spell cast on the Slaad destroys the gem. So, I mean, like, everything dealing with these controls gems has to do with, like, high-powered magic. So you choose if you want to make it a thing. Or, you know what? Maybe it's not in their brain. Maybe it's like a big, cyst or some kind of growth just subdermal on some part of their body. And you don't have to extract it magically. You could cut it out, literally, and then you got the gem. So if you want to play with that, change the rules, make it yours. Let's look at stat blocks. So from weakest to strongest, the Slaad Tadpole is considered a 1/8 challenge rating. I mean, this basically, this thing doesn't have a lot of oomph to it. It's a tiny aberration. You could throw Slaad Tadpoles at a first level party and it would be fair. It would be fair, I think. They have magic resistance, so the Slaad has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. It has a bite that does 1d4 plus 2 damage. So could you use Slaadi with a low-level adventure, levels 1 through 4? Absolutely. As long as you're using Slaad Tadpoles. Now, the next jump, I mean, it goes from that like 1/8 challenge rating, it jumps up quite a bit. The red Slaad is a challenge rating of 5. So there's not a lot of in between. Could you scale any monster to be low, mid, or high level? Yes. But these dudes are pretty badass. So at challenge rating 5, a red Slaad has a lot of hit points, 11d10 plus 33. They have damage resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder. That's a lot. They have telepathy, dark vision, magic resistance, and regeneration. I haven't even gotten to their attacks yet. This is just their defenses. Slaad regains 10 hit points at the start of its turn if it has at least 1 hit point. Jeez. The Slaad makes 3 attacks, 1 with its bite and 2 with its claws. The bite attack does 2d4 plus 3. The claw attack does 1d8 plus 3, but if the target is humanoid, it must succeed on a DC 14 con save or be infected with a disease, a minuscule Slaad egg. A humanoid host can carry only 1 Slaad egg to term at a time. Over 3 months, the egg moves to the chest cavity, gestates, and forms a Slaad tadpole. In the 24-hour period before giving birth, the host starts to feel unwell. Its speed is halved, and it has disadvantage on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. At birth, the tadpole chews its way through the vital organs and out of the host's chest in 1 round, killing the host in the process. This is exactly Aliens, but instead of big, long-headed, carapaced bug aliens, they're toad aliens. How do you hook this into an adventure? Your low-level party discovers some very ill people. These ill people have an unknown disease. No one's really sure about what's plaguing them. Now, maybe your party is smart enough to find some way to do cure disease on these people, and some of them are saved. But before everybody's saved, at least 1 or more, depending on how smart or dumb your party is, at least 1 or more of these diseased victims actually births a Slaad through its chest, a la Alien, right? And the Slaad tadpoles try to get away. They try to make it, they try to avoid getting killed or caught. Maybe the party kills them. Maybe 1 or 2 of them get away. Maybe they jump into a sewer or something. I don't know. Depends on where your setting is, right? But that's like your dip into the pool of the Slaadi, is having some of these initial things happen. And then later on down the line, Oh, maybe they're mid-level now. Now you're going to throw a red slot at them. And the red slot, you could have one of them, you could have multiple, you can lower their hit points or take away some of their immunities. It's up to you. You're the DM. Make it work. But the point is you're gradually, if you're going for a more of the long game and a campaign kind of thing, to use the slot, you can do this. And again, my advice is if you have a group of veteran players, don't tell them that these are slotty. Your players might think that. That would be metagaming if they actually act on it, because their characters don't know that. Well, let's say that one of your smart-ass players says, well, I have proficiency in Arcana. I'm going to make a roll to see if I've ever heard of these things. Okay, go ahead. And then in your brain, you just decide, is it realistic that your person, even if it's a wizard with Arcana, a third-level wizard with Arcana would know about a magical, otherworldly race? Probably not. So you're the GM or DM. You adjudicate it the way that you want to. But my thing is don't even use the name Slot or Slotty if you want to give them a curveball. Be descriptive. Share how this happens. They will make those connections automatically and be like, oh my God, it's like aliens where it bursts out of their chest. They don't know what that little tadpole grows up into. So when they later on encounter this red toad creature, like, you're not necessarily going to think that thing that burst out of somebody's chest 6 adventures ago is this, but it is. So then you got your next step up. Your next step up at challenge rating 7 is the blue slot. The blue slot has all the same crap: regeneration, magic resistance, damage resistances to all those things. They have 3 attacks as well: bite and 2 claws. Their claw attack does that disease, the chaos phage, Phage. While infected, the target can't regain hit points. Oh my God. While infected, the target, so that's a DC 15 con save. While infected, the target can't regain hit points, and its hit point maximum is reduced by 10, 3d6, every 24 hours. If the disease reduces the target's hit point maximum to 0, the target instantly transforms into a red slot. Or if it has the ability to cast spells of 3rd level or higher, a green slot. Only a wish spell can reverse the transformation. So forget about cure disease. There's no cure or restoration spell that will reverse this. And I just want to remind you, this is a challenge rating 7 creature. So in theory, you could have like a group of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th level adventurers encounter a blue slot. One of them gets this disease, and the only way to fix that is a wish spell. Now, I don't know about your game, but I haven't seen or heard of a wish spell in any of the games that I've run or played in, I don't know, 20 years. Since 3rd edition. That's how long it's been since anybody's used it. Wish spells should be very rare. If you're playing in games where they're not, you're playing the game wrong. And yes, I know I'm not supposed to say that because it's not politically correct, but you're playing the game wrong if you have wish spells just shooting out people's asses. All right, so that is a not to be messed around with creature, the blue slot. Now, could you scale this down to make it less lethal? Yes. Yeah. I mean, you could make it so that it could be cured with something else, like a restoration sort of spell or a cure disease sort of spell. I guess it depends on how nice you are. Or, it depends on the tone of your group. If you have established with your group that your campaigns are not effing around and that death is real and very possible, then, don't dumb anything down. Infect them and have them turn into a slot and then attack their party members. All right, next up is the green slot. Now, these were the dudes who I remember we had battles with green slots that were like half the party died. Okay, so in 5th edition, challenge rating 8, a buttload of hit points, 15d10 plus 45. They have all the same resistances, They have magic resistance, they have regeneration, but the green Slaadi are capable of using magic and like powerful magic. They are also shape changers. So the Slaad can use its action to polymorph into a smaller medium humanoid or back into its true form. Its statistics, other than its size, are the same in each form. It has innate spellcasting. It uses charisma, which is, their charisma is 12. So the Slaad can innately cast the following spells: Detect Magic, Detect Thoughts, Mage Hand, Fear, Invisibility, and Fireball. Ugh. They can make 3 attacks, 1 with their bite and 2 with its claws or staff. Alternately, it uses its hurl flame twice. Wow. Okay, so the bite is kind of, it's still pretty deadly, 2d6 plus 4. The claw is 1d6 plus 4, meh. The staff is 2d6 plus 4, meh. Or hurl flame, which is 3d6 fire damage. They could do that twice in a round? Yeah. Multi-attack. Alternatively, it uses its hurl flame twice. So why wouldn't it just do that? I guess if it didn't want to blow its cover. But yeah, so basically in a pinch, they could do 2 hurl flames, doing 3d6 damage each. That's huge. So the power of the green Slaadi and the fun as a DM comes in the ability to use them to create paranoia. If you want to have a mystery element in your adventure involving the Slaadi, and the mystery is basically, what are these things? What's causing the diseases? We've seen this red one, but maybe your party doesn't understand the whole Slaadi thing because you haven't used the word Slaadi, so they can't metagame. They've seen a red one, and they have no idea what a green Slaad is or what it can do. So they have an NPC who comes to help, and this NPC is, perhaps a, I don't know, you can make it up yourself. It could be anything, right? It doesn't even have to be a spellcaster. It could be like a commoner, like I'm an apothecary. Here, have these healing herbs to ease your comfort, and like just, basic medicine ability. But the point is that the green Slaad could be shape changed to appear like a normal person and be working right side by side with the party and feeding them misleading like lies, basically. That's huge. All right, then we get to the gray Slaad. I don't remember encountering gray Slaads, but who knows. Challenge rating 9. They can do all the same stuff with the shape changer, magic resistance, regeneration. They have spell casting at higher abilities with arguably some pretty powerful spells. Detect Magic, Detect Thoughts, Invisibility, Mage Hand, Major Image, Fear, Fly, Fireball, Tongues, Plane Shift. And also the Slaad's weapon attacks are magical. They have multi-attack, bite, and 2 claws, or a greatsword. So the greatsword is pretty badass too. It's 2d6 plus 3 damage. The claws in Slaad form are 1d10 plus 3. The bite is 1d6 plus 3. So I guess if the gray Slaad were appearing as someone else, using the greatsword would be its move, right? And its spells. But again, you could use the gray Slaad as the infiltrator, who's purposely throwing the party off of what's actually going on. You can have both of them working in conjunction. All right, last but not least, we get to this rather scary looking dude called the Death Slaad. Death Slaad. Medium aberration. Chaotic evil. Challenge rating 10. Shape changer. Innate spellcasting. Detect Magic, Detect Thoughts, Invisibility, Mage Hand, Major Image, Fear, Fireball, Fly, Tongues, Cloud Kill, and Plane Shift. Magic Resistance, Magic Weapons, Regeneration, yada yada. Death Slaad. Its bite does 1d8 plus 5, plus 2d6 necrotic damage. So that's that coming from the negative material or negative energy plane. The claws do 1d10 plus 5 plus 2d6 necrotic damage. The greatsword does 2d6 plus 5 plus 2d6 necrotic damage. So really, if you wanted to really up the game and make this challenge rating 10 creature, if you wanted the Slaad to be a true threat, even at high level, I think even if you were like 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th level, all the way up to 20th level, you could do like an epic Slaad, mini series of adventures where, people who gradually throughout the game become friends with members of the party and become trusted NPCs are actually Slaadi. Oh yeah. You could do that. That would be kind of cruel and cool. It would be fun for you as the DM to be able to kind of use these otherworldly creatures. They are truly evil. They are truly chaotic. Their job is to go and mess up everybody's lives and world and make more of their own and move on to the next world. So there's no redemption arc. Sometimes with Monster Monday, I'll come up with ideas about how to use monsters in a way that's different from how they are depicted. I don't think so, man. Well, you know what? I like to challenge myself, so here we go. What if your whole party got turned by a blue Slaad, got turned into Slaadi, and now they have become Slaadi? They are no longer who they used to be. And then either your party says, screw you, we quit, or they laugh it off and say, all right, what the hell, let's try playing as a bunch of Slaadi. And then maybe you're running an evil campaign now where those Slaadi try to basically take over their legion of Slaadi and take out the Death Slaad. I don't know, that's stupid. But you can have fun doing that. Anyway, the Slaadi are very versatile and pretty awesome. And even if you are like me and you don't necessarily like the whole lore having to do with the limbo and the prime material plane and Primus, using his giant D20 of lawfulness and the Modrons, even if you don't like that lore, just use them because they're cool. And you can scale them and adjust them. And you don't even have to make them otherworldly species. Maybe in your world, that is their home. Maybe these Slaadi don't come from some other magical gate, a dimensional portal, whatever, or a spawning stone. Maybe the Slaadi in your world actually come from a specific region, and for whatever reason, some great, climactic event has happened. The sun has shifted in its cycle, and the Slaadi have been awakened. They've lied dormant for centuries, thousands of years, and no one even knows about them. And now they've awoken, right? And they've emerged. Kind of like the 17-year cicadas. Like everybody forgot, but instead of 17 years, what if it was 1,700 years? What if they're stuff of myth and nobody ever thought that they were around? But in your world, like they awaken because of some event, because of global warming or whatever you want, right? So use them and mess up your party and have fun with it, because that's what this game's about. So I hope this has been entertaining or informative, and I hope, Echo Thunderbolt, that you enjoyed my riffing on the Slaadi. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. That doesn't cost you a penny. And share what we got going on at the channel. I appreciate your support. And if you are a bold and ambitious person who wants to be more involved with the community that I'm building, you can come out to Patreon. I have lots of different ways that you can join and be supportive. So thank you as always for watching, and have fun with your games. Peace.
Well, hello, and welcome to Bill Allen World. I am Wizzy, the Wizard. I'm back once again to remind you to subscribe and click on the notifications button, and also watch videos that are over there. Tune in to the next episode of whatever show you were just watching, and watch other shows featuring Bill. He made me say that because he's a narcissist. Okay, bye.